So this begins before it goes into the prologue. It's sort of like there's a poem and then there's a little excerpt, I guess, before the poem.
Okay,
Here.
so real quick, there's 15 books in this series.
Okay, that's a lot. We're definitely committing to one.
What?
And we'll see how that goes. No promises for 15.
Wow. And I got all excited.
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll just stick with this, see how it goes.
Yeah, we might want to switch genres or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. So, are we ready to get into it?
I mean, let me just kind of clear my Google tabs. And then I'll be ready.
This part out.
No, you can go ahead.
Okay, Josh has not cleared all of his Google tabs, but like I was saying before, this starts with an excerpt and then a poem, and then we get into the prologue. And, like, you know, to decipher really what these are about is, I really couldn't. It's more, all I get from this is, first you get sort of the frame narrative aspect of this book, and then you also get some sort of introduction with a decaying empire. I could be wrong here, but is that...
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of seems like the first part is almost like this guy, Panny and Seer, is almost like looking at this whole series after it has happened, and he's like reading these books, is almost what it sounds like.
That's true. I would agree. It does sound like that.
And then the poem is kind of like almost like, you know, ashes, ashes, we all fall down, you know, type of thing. So this is kind of like the poem that relates to this time of history or something like that.
Yeah, that's a pretty good way of describing it. There's really not a whole lot else you can say because we don't know much about it, but I think that's a pretty good description of it. You know, getting it before we get into the prologue, we get a little introduction into what this time in history was like. So, I mean, personally, I really like it. It's a unique technique to sort of give a representation of it.
Yeah, if you haven't read it, the first line of the poem is "The Emperor is dead." So,
right. Yep.
It's a good setting.
Yeah, it is. It's a great setting. So basically, like in the prologue, we are introduced to Ganos. That's how I'm going to say his name, and a bridge burner, and we think it's the queen. And
so I think so the bridge burner is talking about okay. So Ganos talks to the bridge burner about the emperor being missing, and then the lady comes in later, and I'm pretty sure she's the one who killed the emperor and then replaces him.
The lady.
Yes. What is her name? She changes her name. Lacine. Okay. So, like, Ganos and the bridge burner are talking for a little bit, and then Lacine comes into the scene.
Whoa.
And they kind
Didn't think of that
like,
one.
So the bridge burner works directly for the emperor, and he's like his guard, and the emperor's missing, so he's like not too happy about seeing her because she's probably the one who did it. But she has just as much power as the emperor did, because she built up this army to hunt down witches.
Yep. And yeah, that's like another little segue into what the setting is like. So the setting is what you just said there. Like, there's a war going on while these people are having what you just said, this conversation about.
It's not exactly a war. It's more like a revolt. Like it's the people themselves down there.
Yeah,
not really like
I guess
an
a war
army.
isn't a great word to describe it, but and it's based on the sorcery, the prohibition of sorcery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're panicking because of witches in the city.
Yeah, and it's just an epic setting. Like we open on this. Just we were saying before in our previous recording, like this could totally be a movie or TV show because it's so cinematic. Where we just open on this epic, revolt, I guess, and these characters are talking, and you have the obvious young Ganos who's dealing
12-year-old Ganos.
Who's dealing with a sort of his own destiny and what he should do with his life.
Yeah, and his father is a wine merchant, and he wants to join the army. Yes,
and the bridge burner he's talking with, which happens early in the prologue, tells him basically he should rather than doing that, he should stay quiet and rather than pursuing any sort of life in war or as a soldier. And I think that's extremely important. Like, one of the most important things in this prologue, at least for me, is that sort of line there. I need to find it.
Mm-hmm. So I have it here. Every decision you make can change the world. The best life is the one the gods don't notice. You want to live free, boy? Live quietly. Yeah, I think that's such a huge hint on Ganos' character and what this world is going to be like, especially what the gods in the world are going to be like. Mm-hmm. And I also take back what I said earlier about Lacine maybe being the one who killed the Emperor, because Ganos, a little bit before that, says he's talking about the Emperor, and it said he betrayed a god, and that is why he is missing. So clearly something about gods are in play here. And they have major effect on the world. Yes. And it's so important because it's obviously foreshadowing that Ganos is going to have a hell of a life, pretty much. Oh yeah. I feel like that's why this is so important. Just him dealing with this whole destiny thing and him being so naive and young, wanting to go into war, and it just seems already, you can tell that's not the path he should take according to the people around him. Mm-hmm. There's not much honor in war. No. And that's pretty much it. I mean, as far as an impression, this is now reading this multiple times, it almost surpasses an epic opening in a sense, because there's so many layers here. To be fair, I've only read some epic fantasy, but from comparing it to what I've read, this is by far the most epic because of what, we have gods, we have war against sorcery, we have a young, character dealing with his destiny, and it's only 5 pages. Yeah. None exactly, of this is new, and we're just thrown into this time period. Though. It's so weird. Yeah. And we talked about this before, but the only thing I would say that is a negative is when you first go into this and read it, your first impression, you might struggle to sort of understand what's going on because there is a lot going on. But now that I've read it and you've read it multiple times, we're sort of grasping everything that's in play here.
but it's
Yeah.
it's complex because in almost every line there's something that's important, something that's being foreshadowed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, if you're reading it along with us and reading the prologue, just bear with the writer and just go into it knowing that there's going to be a lot going on, and just pay attention to every line. But it's worth sticking out, at least from what I can see.
Oh yeah, it definitely is a very hard read, but I think it's worth it.
Right. Would you do you have anything else as far as impression wise? It's extremely epic and a little complicated.
I would say like his writing style is so unique. Like even though it is this difficult, I think it's just on another level, and that means the readers also have to take up their reading to another level, to truly understand what's going on. And it's a challenge, but I think it's definitely something that should be taken. At least as far as this prologue in the first chapter, because I did reread the first chapter a couple weeks ago, but I don't know. I think it's really good, even if it is confusing and it took me like 3 times to understand what was going on. But the third time I got it.
Yeah. It's definitely untraditional, and it's definitely, you're not being spoon-fed. So,
yeah,
which is great, and if the writer somehow keeps up this level of writing for however many books you said, 13 or something, then
15.
I will be 15. I will be extremely impressed.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a prologue, so like usually in prologues there is a lot going on and there's a lot you don't know.
They're meant to be cryptic,
right?
But I would say
that's okay, so readers, be prepared to have a complicated reading, but it's extremely epic. So you get the best of both worlds. You get your reading ability challenged while reading something awesome.
It's a win-win.
It is. It really is.